Hey guys, this is Razor here doing a Protoss vs Terran tutorial video on how to defend a Terran FD push. Now FD stands for fake double. It was called that because I believe it was to fake out a 2-factory push, but really you're not, because it's simply just added support like Marines and scvs and a vulture or two with your tank. So while the tank is the majority of the damage, or does the most damage, the Marines and vultures kind of do their own side of damage as well. So you kind of have to have a balancing act between either sniping the tank really quickly, or you have to just pick off the Marines one by one, and then eventually the tank is left by itself and then the Terran has to retreat. Or you can pick it off if you get lucky, or he gets too greedy. So yeah, I'm just going to show you a standard build for Protoss vs Terran. It's going to be 3 Dragoons and into fast expand. So you get 8 pylon, 10 gateway, and then 12 gas. And then you get you get 15 pylon after that, 17 cybernetics core, and then after that you obviously just get your first Dragoon as soon as you can, get range as soon as you can, keep pumping Dragoons until you have your 3rd one building, and you should be at 28 supply. And then once you're at 28 supply, you should bring your probe out to build a nexus. And by the time the probe reaches the natural, you should have 400 minerals if you executed the build properly. So that's the build in a nutshell, so you'll kind of see it play out in the rest of the video. I'm playing against a computer just to show you how the build is done and how I utilize my hotkeys. Some newbies may not know how to hotkey. So for units, you want to select your unit that you're going to hotkey, and then you hold control and then you type whatever number you want to assign it to. So for my probe that scouts, I select it and then hold control and then I type 1. So I assign 1. Anytime I double tap 1, it's going to jump back to the screen where my probe is, so I can attend to microing it around the Terran's base. And this is how pro gamers multitask, by microing the probe. And you see how I was macroing out of my nexus without even flipping back. I simply hotkeyed my nexus 0 because 0 is right next to P for probe. So my first 3 nexus I hotkey 0, 9, and 8. And then my units are kind of on the opposite side, where it starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So for me it makes sense like that. I'm not saying you have to hotkey like me, but for me it makes sense. And then there's also a way to save your screen locations. So not only can you hotkey your units, you can also hotkey a screen location. So let's say you want to hotkey a screen where a lot of your gateways are at. You can hold shift. So first you want your screen over there. You hold shift and then you type F2, F3, or F4 because you can only save up to 3 different screen locations. For me, I just decided F3 is going to be where my gateways are at, and then F2 is going to be where my rally point is. And usually that's the natural choke point where my Dragoons are right now. So yeah, you see here I got 28 nexus. It was a little bit late because the probe was sent out a little bit late. But yeah, that's why you got to send your probe out a little preemptively. By the time it gets there, then you get the building. But yeah, that way, the reason why it's nice to be able to hotkey your screens is so you can only hotkey so many buildings at once. Because yeah, you can maybe hotkey 5 gateways at once in mid game, but then after you start controlling a maxed out army, you don't have any other space to really hotkey your buildings. So a good way to utilize the screen locations is just simply use one of the screen locations for your production units, whether it's gateways, factories, you know, barracks, hatcheries, whatever it is, in the middle of the screen where you can kind of select, you know, click them very quickly in succession. You just go, you know, click every gateway, and then you start typing whatever unit hotkey, and then, you know, they start building, and then once they're done, you type F2 where they're all rallied at, select them all, and then assign them a hotkey for the group. So here, that was just against the computer, so I'm going to show you the scenario now where you actually micro against an FD push. So here, you see how the Dragoons are all in a straight line, and they're all attacking at the same time. And that's pretty important, because if you let a Dragoon not attack, you're not utilizing them to the fullest potential. So you want them relatively in the same distance so they all can fire at once. So that wasn't bad. I lost a Dragoon. If I had perfect micro, you can actually keep all your Dragoons. So let's see how I do here. So I think here I purposely miss micro just to show you what it looks like how not to micro. You see how the top Dragoon wants to come in a little too close before firing, and that's because if you notice where I was left clicking, it was a little too far from their range. Now in this next reset here, notice where I'm right clicking my A move. So you see how I'm not going too far forward from where my Dragoons are at? Because if you go too far forward and A move, they're going to want to move to that location first and then start attacking. And you won't be able to utilize the full range of your Dragoons. And that's what I see a lot that happens in these types of plays, where Protoss doesn't manage to micro it properly, and that's because they're A moving a little too far from the Dragoons. So anytime the Dragoons want to move forward, it's because that Dragoon is a little too far from where you're clicking. So yeah, you want to try to dance around, and if the tank comes to a little too close there, you want to snipe it just like that, and avoid the rest of the units, just to utilize your Dragoon range as best as possible. And then so yeah, that was pretty good. I kept all my Dragoons. So let's see if we can do a little bit better than that. Alright, so we'll reset. So yeah, you see how all the Dragoons are firing at once, and then if one Dragoon gets a little too straight away, you can always rearrange their formation. So you see there, I rearranged that Dragoon's formation, and then I pulled it back once I saw the siege tank was trying to go after it. Now of course the Terran player, a real human opponent, is not going to neglect their tank like that, but you get the idea. That was pretty good micro. And that's pretty much how